So my name's Sherry, and I manage a team of 8 people. We're a research office that has to spend a lot of time doing complex analyses and complex work, and then narrowing those messages down into very brief, high-level communications to our leadership to make decisions. A lot of people on my team are typical researchers, very analytical thinkers who need to give all kinds of context and details and information that often ends up detracting from the real story that they want to tell. And so learning to take all of that information and distill it down to the most important points and to bring people along with them in the message that they're trying to tell, the point that they're trying to get across, has been very difficult for us. We do a lot of typical conference presentations, research type activities, sitting on a panel with 3 or 4 other people talking about, different ways that we've looked at a similar problem. And those things are honestly really very boring. So really wanted to think about how we could stand out, how we could make sure our message was getting across, and make sure that people were walking away with the most important things rather than us burying the lead ourselves. So personally, I knew I had a problem with breathing when I was presenting. I wouldn't feel nervous, but I would come across as nervous because my voice would shake. And it really takes away from the power of your presentation when you sound like you're less confident than you actually are. I have one person on my team who literally closes her eyes and turns her face away when she's trying to make the most important point that she wants to make. I have some folks who just say 100 words when 10 words could communicate the message, and some folks who just don't communicate clearly enough. Everybody, when they're watching a webinar, I don't know anybody who's not multitasking at the same time. So I was a little nervous that people wouldn't get the same power of being in an in-person class. Worried that people wouldn't engage because that they wouldn't be able to ask questions, that it wouldn't be personalized, and that folks wouldn't engage with it the same way that they would have an in-person training. So it turned out that doing it online was better than I could have imagined. With having the videos online was that when someone had to miss a week, they could make it up on their own. So they weren't behind in the content. It was easy. It was short for folks to make up. They actually did it on their own in between versus just skipping it, and stayed on track with where everybody else on the team was. Matt really was very personable. He was available. He answered emails within 24 hours. I mean, most of the time, I think within 2 or 3 hours, honestly, but definitely never more than a day went by that if my team reached out and asked him something specific to what they were doing, or sometimes, right, they had a presentation already scheduled and we hadn't learned the thing that they were worried about yet, and Matt would flex with them and teach them, give them some tips about that one issue or that particular worry that they had. And Matt worked with me a lot to plan how the trainings would go and to, highlight things that needed to be highlighted, to have discussions that were important, and to prep for some of the in-person sessions that are part of the virtual training. And having Matt zoom into our meetings was really useful and worked great. He could see us, we could see him, he could listen to us in real time, practicing all of the skills and the techniques that he had just taught us. He was super encouraging. He was always positive about things and yet found ways to give constructive criticism that made us better. So I think that doing this course as a team, one, helped our bond as a team together. We were learning the same things and helping each other along the way, learning from each other. Watching Matt coach one person was teaching the other people in the room the same thing. Some people maybe were nervous at the beginning about having to perform in front of their peers, about having to stand up and give these presentations in front of their coworkers, but really, Matt fostered a very positive and encouraging environment that kept us all moving forward. Matt was flexible with us and again gave us the opportunity, if someone had a question that they didn't feel comfortable for whatever reason bringing to the group, they could reach out and email Matt, or he even had a couple of short, one-on-one conversations with folks to get them over a particular issue that they were having with the training. After taking Stand and Deliver, my team has a different level of confidence when going into speaking, even just at a regular meeting that we would have, a meeting with one another, a meeting with our direct superiors, or even higher leadership. And they have less trepidation about preparing for those kind of speaking events. They have a structure that can be adapted to anything they're doing, whether it is a conference presentation or a memo that they're writing, or a longer talk that they've been asked to give, or even when it's not a structured speech that they're giving or a structured presentation, you still have these skills and the understanding of how to highlight the things that are most important. My experience with in-person trainings in the past has often been that it's a really fast download of a lot of great information that in the moment you think there are so many ways you're going to be able to use this. and you walk out of there with great intentions that don't always come to fruition. And as more time passes, you realize, oh, I thought I would change the way I did this based on that new technique I learned, but I really haven't. I really haven't implemented it. It hasn't had a long-term effect. So spreading the course out over a number of months really forced us to consistently be thinking about the practices that Matt was teaching, not only because we had to practice between sessions, because we knew there were going to be times that we would actually be giving a presentation and getting feedback from Matt, but also because every day we were working and having tasks in front of us that required using these skills. And it really became internalized for the team. It became something we were used to thinking about and used to incorporating into the work that we did, so that now it's a couple of months beyond finishing the training. We are all still, it's a second nature now. We're all still implementing these practices. The way the class is structured really allowed us to focus in that 1 hour of time. There wasn't a lot of homework. There wasn't expectations outside of that 1 hour. So as long as they could come to that meeting once a week and commit to that time, and they could make it up on their own if they had to miss it for work or personal reasons, they didn't have to do much outside of that except for that natural kind of practicing of the skills we were learning. And so no one expressed feeling like it was too much, like it was a burden. All of my team stuck in through the whole series that we did, in addition to other people from outside the team who heard it was happening and wanted to come in and join in, and they stayed in for the long term as well. Honestly, this was the best use of professional development dollars that I have ever spent. We got more bang for the buck from this training than from any 1 hour, 1 day, 2 or 3 day course we've ever sent any of our people to, because of how relevant it was to the work that we do, how individualized and personalized it was to each of us and to the presentations that we had coming up, or the types of work that we needed to prepare for, and how integrated it became with our daily work skills. It's really the best value for training dollars that I could imagine finding.